Hey, what's up? I'm Nick with Motorcycle.com and welcome to another episode of In Gear, where we put on a bunch of leather for you and then talk about it. Anyway, if you guys have ever wanted a full gauntlet style glove, you're probably someone of the sport riding persuasion. You probably do some track days, do some aggressive sport riding, and you want maximum protection for your hands. You, sir or madam, are a wise motorcyclist. Now, what I have before me is the Alpinestars GP Pro R4, which is the follow-up to the GP Pro R3. There are a whole lot of changes that I want to talk about with these, and why I'm encouraging you to potentially purchase these or not. I'm not your mom. I don't get to decide what you do with your money. But anyway, let's get into this review because there's a lot to talk about here. Now, but first, let's take them off. Okay, now that those gloves have came off my hands in a really unusual fashion, it only happens here in the In Gear garage. With the update of the R4, you stay there, boy. Okay, so when we're talking about a full gauntlet style glove, there are a handful of protection features that I think any glove in your shopping list should have. If they don't have it, you really just need to mosey on down the rack and pick something else. Now, first thing, bridged finger right here. So that's going to be able to keep your ring and pinky finger protected in the event that you crash, because it tends to roll and get pulled as you start sliding this way. So it keeps it together. Other thing that I'm going to hammer down on here is a palm slider. And then we're also going to be talking about this heavily with your slider up on the ulna area of your wrist. And then of course, knuckle protection. Now, if the glove you're looking at has those four elements and the glove fits you and you really like it, dude, more power to you. Really, that's what we're going to be talking about today with the GP Pro R4. So let's just start at the top. I'm going to put this guy on real quick, just so I can point to my own hand. And when we talk about comfort as well, this is a very easy to use glove. I feel like with any of the more high-end gloves, breaking in gloves has kind of become a thing of the past. With the GP Pro series, you put them on, they're ready to rock right out of the box. It shouldn't take more than a session or two to just become comfortable and sort of stretch them out. Really, I'm not kidding. With all the reputable brands, that's kind of how I feel at this point. Now, starting at the top, we have that bridge finger that I mentioned before. We do have multi-layered leather protection here as well throughout the glove and in the high friction zones. So you have that abrasion protection in the case of a crash of some kind. We also have TPU sliders here on the fingertips, which act just as sliders, but also to help with impact protection because it's an additional armor layer. We do have these little foam sort of impact absorbing spots throughout the glove here on some of the digits, and then also up on the thumb, right in this area. That's another hot spot for impacts. But as you move in, you do have this accordion paneling right in this area here to help with articulation. And then as you can start looking down here, you'll see some of this yellow fabric popping out here. Again, this is another thing that I'm really going to hammer home about with any of these high-level race or sport-oriented gloves. This is actually an aramid layer. And what that's going to do is help mitigate any heat transfer as you're sliding down the asphalt to prevent any unwanted burns and things like that. This cloth, this aramid fabric, is found throughout the glove, and it's going to be applied to all of your hot spots. So you have it right in this finger bridge area right here. That's probably your most common slide zone on a glove. And it's going to be found in this palm slider area here. Again, multi-layered leather. The actual leather construction is a combination of goatskin, cowskin, and some kangaroo. Another cool feature with this glove that I want to get into is when you compare this to the R3, the outgoing R3, and now to the R4, we've gone to this synthetic elasticy material, which actually makes up the predominant amount of the gauntlet. Essentially, it just makes it easier to get on and off because you just don't have a big bulk of leather that isn't stretchable. This is actually quite malleable. And so when you're pulling these things on, taking them off, they just don't get bunched up. Additionally, and arguably there is some airflow benefit because it isn't leather. Although, remember, your suit's gonna be right in there, but you do get a little bit of airflow there. Now with this big TPU protector, it conforms to your knuckle. Does come up a bit. There is some venting, as you can see here, and additional accordion paneling just to help that stretch. As we move to the interior of the glove, what I want you guys to really notice is one, palm slider. Again, palm slider, you need it. And then you're gonna notice some new perforation on some of the fingertips just to improve that airflow. But if we're honest, this is a full leather, or mostly full leather, sport glove. Airflow isn't necessarily going to be its high point. Moving to the palm of this glove, we have this high friction zone material right here, and that's really just gonna be helping reduce wear on your control areas. It's also a bit sticky, it's a bit textured, so when you're gripping the throttle, you can actually roll your hands, you don't have to sit there and go like this. It also just helps with wear. I've definitely worn out my fair share of gloves in the past. Another cool feature that Alpinestars has started instituting on a lot of their gloves throughout the years is actually including this elastic stretch panel right here. It is abrasion resistant, so it's not a matter of, oh, they put something in that could potentially hurt us. What that is going to do is, as you open the glove up like this, you can see it kind of pulling away from my palm a little bit. But as you go to reach the controls, say this is the handlebar, you put it in there, you get some stretchiness, right? So you can get to your controls without being restricted. That is a nice feature that Alpinestars is putting on most of their sport gloves, if not just most of their gloves in general. And some other brands have really instituted this as well. So you can see this from most reputable brands, Dainese, Speedy, et cetera. Now, moving up to this big old gauntlet right here, as I mentioned before, if you're going to the racetrack, if you're doing aggressive canyon riding, these are some of the protection features that I highly recommend for you. And at the $299 price point, you are getting a very high performance glove. These different plastic protectors, Alpinestars refers to them as their dynamic friction shields, if you've ever wondered what DFS actually stands for. But there you go. Okay, in terms of outright protection and where this stands in the CE certification, we are seeing a Category 2 certification for this. Pretty much high level stuff right there. If you're looking for a full gauntlet style glove, this is something that's going to treat you very well. As I mentioned before, articulation, quite good. I've worn these gloves a number of times on the racetrack, a handful of street rides, things like that. As I mentioned before, break-in periods are almost non-existent for any of the high quality gloves that we see on the market. And it has all the protection features that I want. Again, we're gonna recap that stuff. So it has armor on the digits, it has that bridge finger, it has knuckle protection. We have the big DFS slider up in here to protect your ulna area, and you have that palm slider. You combine that with multi-layered leather protection throughout the glove, in your high friction zones, and then aramid layers to reduce any heat transfer during those longer slides. One of the complaints that you can have about any full leather gauntlet is the lack of airflow. You're exchanging that in favor of just outright protection. But realize we use our hands a lot. And when we take tumbles, we tend to extend our hands just instinctively. So you want to do everything you can to protect yourselves. If you guys have any questions about the Alpinestars GP Pro R4, go ahead and drop them down below. We'll get you some answers. Go ahead and visit Motorcycle.com for all your motorcycling needs, whether you want to check out new reviews for bikes, products, and more, or get pricing and specification information. Now, we're going to get out of here like this.